Today we're talking about inquiry. What, you have questions? Of course you do. You have questions about inquiry. I love it. Let's run through them real quick so that we kind of know what we're talking about. Like, let's establish some norms and vocabulary. So in kind of the shallow end, you've got your facilitator here, and everybody's doing the same thing, structured inquiry. So the students follow the lead of the teacher. The entire class is jumping into inquiry together. That's structured inquiry. Controlled inquiry, the teacher chooses the topics, identifies the resources, and students are going to use that to answer questions. So you're going to notice kind of a gradual release of responsibility as we go into the deeper end of the pool towards free inquiry, which makes sense. Again, I think they're labeled well. So then you get into guided inquiry, and you'll notice here that the facilitator has stepped out of the pool at this point, right? So I think that's a key difference here as we split our pool in half. In guided inquiry, the teacher still chooses the topics of the questions, but now the students are designing the product or their solution. So the facilitator is now the expert on the side, right? They're not the sage on the stage. They're the sage on the side guiding things. So they're still there. They're still giving input. And then as you go farther down, you see where the diving board is. Now we're in free inquiry. So again, the facilitator's on the side of the pool. Some kids are treading water. Some are jumping off the diving board. Others are swimming. So there's different levels of activity. Students choose their topics without reference to any prescribed outcome. Free inquiry. They're free to investigate. They're free to find their solutions. And where I would have loved this when I started my teaching career is I came from engineering at a Fortune 15 company, and I was really excited to jump into education. And I'll just tell you, like, I watched the educational movies. I thought that I was going to go and change the world because I was passionate and super excited. I thought that's all you really needed. Turns out there's a lot more that you could use, of course. Now, I thought that every learner should be jumping in full force, right? So I don't think we use the term personalized learning, and I probably wouldn't have either. I just thought they should all be doing cool stuff, and they should all be changing the world, because if they knew how powerful they were, and they could change the world, then they would be engaged and go do amazing things. That was basically the plan, if you could call it a plan. So every kid, 125 kids, is going to make their own service learning project, right? So I was teaching 8th grade English, and I had all these different blocks. And I was fired up. I got some resources. I was doing a little bit of speaking around service learning, so I did have some resources. I had some grant money. And I was like, hey, you plan it. We're going to go do it. Let's make this happen. Well, I don't know what your current level of experience is in teaching. So maybe you don't know this, but I'm guessing you do if you've been around for a couple of years. That's a recipe for disaster. So basically, I jumped into the deep end and said, everybody make your own service learning, free inquiry, right? And then let's do it. So I had 125 cats. I'm just herding cats, and they're all running these different places. They're all coming up with these great ideas. It's true. I got them to dream, to have this vision. But now I was like, how do we actually pull this off? We need like $500,000 at this point, right? For all the things we're going to do. We're going to send canned goods to Africa. We're going to refigure the water table. We're going to, save all the cats and dogs that are going into shelters that, sure, it's a no-kill shelter, but they have to go somewhere. So they're going to be in the back of Cynthia's backyard. And once they're there, they're safe. And what do we do when they need more room? Well, then they go into Billy's backyard. And it's like, eventually I just said, hey, I had to tap out. It's like I had to tap out. Like, this isn't going to work. I cannot do this. I'm sorry I failed, right? But it's because I jumped into free inquiry way too early, right? I was still trying to figure out like classroom management. I was still trying to figure out what a complex sentence was. And I taught English, by the way. I knew 20 different types of adverbs from college. However, I don't remember ever talking about complex sentences, and I had to teach them. And I'm trying to do free inquiry, and it just didn't work. So I needed to start with some structured inquiry, some controlled, like make my way there just as a facilitator, let alone my learners, right? My learners had not been used to this either. So there's these two learning curves that have to happen. Both you as the facilitator and you as your learners need to kind of learn how these things happen, what the structures are, what the processes are. Where does the group contract give me some freedom? Where does it hold me in? There's a lot of different ideas here. So I don't want you to look at the graphic and be like, oh, I've got to do free inquiry all the time. It's like, well, maybe. And I think even once you kind of get your PBL chops down, like you've done some great free inquiry PBL units, there still might be a time where your learners need maybe some guided inquiry or controlled inquiry, one of these different levels. And how cool would it be that you take, one of Trevor's sketch notes here and just put this on your wall and just let everybody know, like, this is where we're at and this is why, right? I don't quite want to take us into free inquiry yet because it's first semester, it's the first 9 weeks, and we need to get some norms down. I need you to live some of these things out so that we can move down towards guided inquiry and free inquiry, right? And what does free inquiry look like? Great question. Is it, complete free reign? Hey, learners, do whatever you want. Here's your standards, go. Probably not, right? Like even in a genius hour situation, when you ask these learners, like, what do you want to do? Ready? Like create this PBL unit that you're going to go do, right? And we had one teacher that did this, and he found out later that most of them like went to Google and put, what do I want to do into Google? Because they don't even know, right? So there's still structures and scaffolding that needs to happen even in a free inquiry situation. So even in that situation, like let's give a great example in Model School, New Tech, CSA New Tech in Columbus, Indiana. Their senior projects are phenomenal. Like they're just phenomenal. So these learners, they pick a problem in the community that they're going to solve, and then they solve it. So how do they do that? Well, I mean, the learners at CSA New Tech are phenomenal. The facilitators are, like, it's an amazing culture. There's still structure and scaffolding though, right? So one of the great things they do is at the beginning of the year, all the seniors know this is going to happen, right? Because they've been here for 4 years. They know this is how it goes. They've seen other senior projects. So they're ready. Like they're fired up. They've got an idea. Well, they still have to put in some kind of a proposal. And then they take that proposal and now they're going to present to a community partner.